Hello and welcome. This is Faceless Opinion, wondering if there's a love triangle fanfic between the Dragonborn, Serana, and Ael the Huntress. Welcome you back to Skyrim Month, the series where I go over Skyrim-related topics throughout the entire month of November. Vampires, werewolves. There have been many debates as to which of these supernatural creatures is superior, so it would only make sense for me to make a video about the subject. Which transformation should you pursue in the game? Which is better? Dare I say, who would win in a fight? The werewolf, the poster child of lycanthropy, or the vampire lord, the pinnacle peak of vampirism. I'm going to discuss what each form is capable of, the powers, abilities, and any weaknesses that they may have. With all that out of the way, let us figure out who is the true child of the night. The werewolf transformation is made available during the companion's questline, during the quest The Silver Hand. Upon taking this bestial form, your build increases greatly, making you dominant in close quarter combat, with you being able to pounce on top of enemies, throw them like ragdolls, or just rip their heads off their shoulders casually, as well as you being able to withstand a fair share of damage from enemies, even making you 100% resistant to all diseases, though you don't need to be transformed for that effect. However, if you fear that you may be running low on health, you can replenish your health bar by feeding on fallen enemies. However, your health bar is not the only thing that's been beefed up, as your stamina bar gets improvement as well, making you do devastating damage with your claw slashes, or can make it to where you can sprint at incredible speed. Whether it be chasing down foes or escaping the area, as physically powerful as the werewolf form is, it does bring other things to the table besides its bestial strength, and that would be its howl. There are three variations of the werewolf howl: terror, blood, and pack. Your base howl, the howl of terror, makes it to where nearby enemies will be placed under a fear effect for 30 seconds. The second howl, the scent of blood, enables you to detect life within a large radius, up to 60 seconds. While for the last howl, the howl of the pack, enables you to have summons, whether it be spectral wolves, ice wolves, or even actual werewolves. Though one thing to note, the previous two howls are only available for use if you find the totems of Hircine, which can only be found during a radiant quest for the companions, under the same name. Now, what are some weaknesses that can be attributed with the werewolf form? I would say that the transformation process can be considered one. Your increased size can make it difficult to explore tight-fitting dungeons, and in that state, you will not be able to collect items, loot chests, and pick locks. You could always undo the transformation, however that is a bit tricky, since the only way to undo the transformation is to wait for the effect to wear off, which lasts approximately 2.5 minutes. Though if you've been feeding on fallen enemies, the effect will last an extra 30 seconds per enemy you eat, making it to where you may not be able to turn back for a while, though you could literally hit the wait button and wait for an hour to revert back. Be warned that you will not be able to transform again since the ability can only be used once a day. However, this can be subverted if you have the Ring of Hircine with you, granting you the ability to do multiple werewolf transformations a day. Another weakness of this form is that you will not gain any bonuses from sleeping, if you care about that sort of thing. The werewolf form is an imposing power that can turn you into a literal juggernaut that can manhandle most foes, making it the ideal form for a physical fight. On the opposite side of the coin, we have the Vampire Lord. To acquire this transformation, you need to side with the Volkihire clan during the Dawnguard DLC. If the Dawnguard side is selected, Serana will offer you this ability just before you need to go to the Soul Cairn, as there's two ways to gain access there. Upon taking this vampiric form, you will undergo major physical changes. In addition to wings sprouting from the back and height vastly increasing, the skin will pale, the eyes will change to an orange-gold hue, and the cheeks will narrow prominently. In combat, you have two forms of attack, melee and blood magic. In melee, you take to the ground and rely on claw attacks to do damage. This claw attack can also be capable of dealing poison damage if you have the Poison Talon perk selected from the Vampire perk tree, as well as being capable of doing a power attack bite. Blood magic allows you to cast spells in your transformed state. Drain Life is the main spell, which is used both to absorb health from enemies and counts as feeding to progress within the Vampire perk tree. Raise Dead enables you to reanimate any creature for 120 seconds. Summon Gargoyle allows you to summon a gargoyle as your ally for 120 seconds. Corpse Curse functions like the Paralyze spell, making an enemy immobile for 10 seconds. And for Vampiric Grip, enables you to lift an enemy off the air and snuff the life force out of them. Think of it like a force choke in Star Wars. Other abilities the Vampire Lord can perform, which do not count as the previous two forms of combat, are Night Powers, which serve as a crowd control / support abilities. These abilities count as bats, which allows you to turn into a cloud of bats and fly several feet away from your current location. Vampire Sight, which grants night vision for 60 seconds. Detect all creatures, which can detect all creatures where they be living or undead. Mist form, which turns you into a cloud of mist for 23 seconds, where you are invulnerable for the time and makes it to where your health, magicka, and stamina regenerate. Supernatural reflexes, which function similarly to how slow time shout does and lasts for 23 seconds. And Night Cloak, which surrounds you by a cloud of bats which absorbs the health of all enemies within melee range. The Vampire Lord transformation offers a quick change between your human form and your vampiric form, as well as being able to revert out of that state anytime you desire, and can take on this form multiple times a day, something that the Werewolf transformation lacks. Though this form has its fair share of weaknesses that it brings to the table. Having a weakness to fire is one of the drawbacks. The amount of damage varies depending on how long it's been since you've had a proper feeding, i.e. drinking blood from a creature. Another major drawback would be the weakness to sunlight. Anytime that you're outside and the sun is out, your vampire blood will begin to boil, causing your health, stamina, and magicka bars to be stunted, reducing your overall capacity and limiting its regeneration as long as you are outside. The Vampire Lord has many powers under its belt, making it a versatile weapon against any foe that gets in your way. I have compared the two forms, talking about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Now it's time to figure out which of these two powerhouses is the apex of the night. Now it is time for a death battle! Yes? Hello? Yeah, I was just about to show the fight animation. Wait, I can't? Why? Seriously? It's trademarked? That's disappointing. It's fine, I'll figure something out. Alright, sorry guys, we don't get to see a cool fight animation to figure out who wins, so I'll have to go with the analysis then. Well, after looking out over both forms and seeing what they can bring to the table, if both of these transformations locked horns, I would say that out of 10 fights, I think the Werewolf would end up winning more often than not. The reason why I say that is the Vampire Lord may be capable of melee combat, it does not match up to a Werewolf's brute strength. It simply doesn't. That form is best suited for mid-range and crowd control. Now, would the Vampire Lord's blood magic be able to contend with the Werewolf? I think that it can give it a fighting edge, but I'm not so sure though. Drain life can take chunks out of a Werewolf's health, but it is something that can't be spammed repeatedly. While for Vampiric Grip, I'm not sure it can affect a Werewolf, because there are certain creatures that the ability cannot affect, and I don't know if the Werewolf falls into the category. Things like Summon Gargoyle, Raise Dead, and Corpse Curse can delay a werewolf long enough to possibly slay one, but the werewolf has its own abilities that can summon allies as well, evening the playing field, though I would say a Gargoyle would end up winning most fights against anything a werewolf summons. Not to mention Night Powers also give the Vampire Lord a few advantages, so it is not a squash match if those two fight one another. But ultimately, I would have to lean in more towards the werewolf. I would say that wins 6, maybe 7 times out of 10. So yeah, our winner is the Werewolf. Overall, I stand by my stance that the Werewolf can beat the Vampire Lord, and would say that it is the better of the two transformations. But don't think for a moment that I'm going to trash the Vampire Lord. Like I said earlier, it is a versatile form that brings many things to the table. Not to mention that it is easier to change in and out of compared to its lycanthrope counterpart. So if you favor the Vampire Lord, I support your decision. Now tell me, what do you think? What do you think is better, Werewolf or Vampire Lord? Who do you think would actually win in a fight between the two? Tell me in the comment section down below. Now if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and make sure you subscribe for more of that good old Skyrim content. Now until next time, I'll catch you all on the flip side.